Recording in progress.
Curiosity is defined as a thirst or a desire for knowledge. We at TA Study Circle, we are a group of curious learners. And the topic for the day is curiosity is the cure. To talk on this topic, we have a person based from Dubai, an award-winning motivational public speaker and transformation coach. Can we welcome Mr. Shamir? Welcome, Shamir.
Thank you very much for the warm introduction.
Yeah.
Call.
So can others go on mute? There's some disturbance. I would like to let you know how the meeting will go. After me, our secretary Indu will introduce the Shamir. You will come to know more about him.
Please unmute yourself. It's gone on mute. Yes.
Treasurer Allari mute panna sonna anni mute pannita pola. Okay. So after that, Shamir will take over and the session will go till 8:25. After which our treasurer Suresh will give his concluding remarks. And by 8:30, we will wind up. So have a great evening and over to you, Indu. Yeah, Suresh, you need to unmute Indu.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Surya sir. And a very good evening to all our members who have joined us this evening, and a very warm welcome to our special speaker of the day as well. Thank you for having accepted our invitation in the first place to address our members this evening. It is not only my pleasure, but it is a privilege to be introducing you to our audience today, because I have witnessed some of the conversations which have been life-changing for many participants on your platform, which is Turning Point, an event he hosts on most Sundays. The whole of last year during the pandemic, I have seen people join in and shift in many ways and leave in a very empowering state as opposed to how they join the conversations. So thank you for doing that work, and prayers to give you more strength to be able to continue to do the great work that you do. So let me formally introduce our speaker. He's a curator of Awesome Walkers and Turning Point, which are platforms created to demonstrate the art of having deep, inspiring conversations. He's an entrepreneur. He has lived and worked in many spaces in China for about 8 years, while overcoming various challenges since 2006. He's had different leadership roles within non-profit social community platforms such as Toastmasters, Rotaract, and the Indian community in China, strategic advisor to business leaders, permitting change makers to identify personal vision that is impactful. He is also an NLP practitioner, bringing a new mindset to different scenarios. He coaches clients, identifies their true purpose, and help them march towards their goals with authenticity. He is also a coach to young leaders and enables them to become game changers in developing a success mindset and helps them become peak performers. He's a member on the board of governors of JSS International School in Dubai, contributing to the wellness engagement of teachers and students alike. So he is also a skills trainer, conducting various workshops and training programs that enhances the engagement and communication within and across teams. And he also has very interesting podcasts. Please do visit his YouTube channel as well. So during your session, kindly share a little more details on your podcast and your channel. So over to you, and looking forward to a great session as usual.
Thank you very much, Indu, and thank you very much, Surya. Thank you all of you for being here, first of all. When I got this invitation about over a month ago, and when Indu contacted me and said, we'd like you to address this community. And then she introduced everyone who's going to be coming here are experts, all our coaches, all our psychiatrists, or psychologists, and transaction analysts, and you have to come and add value over here. So better come prepared with something that we can all take away and learn something. And I was like, Indu kept chasing me, honest to God, for weeks. Samir, what is the topic? Samir, what is the topic? We have to create the flyers, we have to announce to the community, we have to tell people. And I was like, honest to God, I was so curious about this whole idea of what will I speak to people who are more professionals, who are more experienced, who have gone through life definitely more than I have, who have much more richer library of experiences in their lives. And that whole idea of being curious made me realize, why not I talk about curiosity? And once I gave the topic to Indu, she was like, yes, this is a very interesting topic. So I said, okay. And then I started researching about curiosity. I started diving a little deeper into the world of curiosity. And I've given the topic, curiosity is the cure. If it is a cure, there has to be an illness. I'd like to hear from you what you think is the illness. Put in the chat what you think is the illness if curiosity is the cure, according to you. Ignorance, boredom. Curiosity is the cure to boredom. Curiosity is the cure to ignorance. I'd like to see more answers. Curiosity makes us to be here and now, all right? What is it the cure for? What is the ailment? Attitude, stagnation, resisting change, lethargy, rigidity, monotony, knowledge, anxiety. So, truth of the matter is, everything that you say is right. Because if you're giving that answer, it means for you, the context of curiosity means something very specific and you've chosen it, right? Now, let me share one thing over here. How many of you have, I would love it if you can come on camera because it'll help me be more engaged with you. So if you don't mind, please switch on your cameras, and as long as the bandwidth does not suffer and we can communicate like this, then I would love to see your faces and be engaged with you, even your expressions, because I'm really curious. What is on the other side? What kind of expression is happening, right? So this is going to be a little bit interactive. There'll be a little bit of sharing from my side, but at the same time, I will interrupt it with trying to take your feedback and seeing what is it that you're taking away from whatever I'm sharing so far. So imagine the gym, right? When you go to the gym and you watch somebody do workout or do exercise, when you watch them, does your weight come down? Does your muscles build? Doesn't, right? The same over here. If you're just here watching throughout the next 2 hours, your muscle over here is not going to get exercised. And I'd like to engage and exercise that mind as well, a little bit in between the presentation, so that we actually exercise and see how we can actually build that. So when you are participating either in the chat or later when I unmute you and ask you for your inputs, you being participative is you exercising that muscle of yours. So I hope everyone is going to be really engaged in this gym, right? So I have, how many of you know what this is? How many of you are curious about what this is? You can, okay, let me, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Kind of jellyfish?
Is a fish. Is it a fish?
Right? Looks like a fish.
Looks like. No, not jellyfish.
It's a smiley fish.
It's
a
smiling
balloon.
fish.
It's a smiley fish.
It's a balloon.
It's called a piglet squid. It was discovered very recently, apparently. And let me show you a quick video of that. This video was on July 2019, and you can hear them speaking.
Cavity.
I've never seen anything that looks like this before.
Could we get a shot without the lasers? Sure.
Why am I sharing this? About a fish that is almost transparent and in the sea, and something that has been discovered recently. I'm sharing it is because we don't know what we don't know in this world, right? Until for the first time we see it, we start realizing that yes, this could be possible. And that is the space of where curiosity comes in. And when we are open to things, then new things opens up for us. So how many of you are, request those to mute, and then when you're speaking, you can unmute so that it doesn't disturb the others. How many of you are truly deeply curious individuals? How many of you would say that you are deeply curious individuals? Just
Me,
by a
me,
show
me,
of-
me, 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 me,
Someone's
me,
speaking
me.
for everyone. Thank you very much. I'm sure you all are, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be attending this session. You're here because you are on a journey of continuous growth. You're on a journey of learning from everywhere and everything and everyone as much as possible. If you're coming here and attending this session, then yes, I can guarantee that you are deeply curious already. Now, what I want you to do through this session is this. I want you to act. I want you to act. Now, what does act mean? What does act mean? This is something that I learned from John Maxwell.
Answer.
Answer?
Commitment.
Comment.
Commitment?
And
Correct?
act, commit, and treat others.
Act, commit, and treat others. All right. Now, what I share with you about ACT is something that I learned from John Maxwell when he came down to Dubai, and I attended one of his conferences. And at the beginning of the session, he shared this. And ever since then, I have been applying it in every session that I go to. Almost everywhere that I attend to organize something, I encourage people to use the principles of ACT. Where A stands for, ask yourself after the session, what will you apply from what you just heard? C stands for what it is that you will change about the things that you're already doing moving forward. And T stands for teach. What will you teach someone from what you just heard? If you don't do any of these three things, if you don't do either apply, change, or teach from what you just heard, then you could just be standing on a road on Mount Road in Chennai and listening to the cars on the road, and it wouldn't be any different from this session. It would be completely meaningless, and you're not taking away truly something of magnitude. If you really want this session to be meaningful, I would encourage you to apply the principles of ACT. So while we're going through the session, in between stories, I will be asking you to share either something that you will apply or change or teach. You can share any one of those, or you can share what is it that you are, what's opening up inside you. Very often when I ask people what you have got from the session, they kind of repeat what has been said in the session. But repeating what has been said in the session is only repeating what has happened. But my question is not about what happened, but my question is about what opened inside for you. And when you're deeply curious about what opens inside you while you listen to a session, then you open yourself to the possibilities of new things in your life, new adventures, new connections, new results. Everything can be new if something new opens up inside. And if that is the desire, you're coming into this session right now at this point of time, and if you're completely open without judgment, being present over here, completely in the here and now, then I can guarantee you through the stories that I'm going to share today with you, there will be lessons, there will be things possibly that will open inside you. When you come in from a space of deep curiosity. Curiosity. When did it start? From the first human beings on earth, Adam and Eve. They were very curious. What is the forbidden fruit? What will happen if we eat the forbidden fruit? Why did God say, don't eat the forbidden fruit? Curiosity is a basic nature that each one of us hold. It is something that is instinctively in each one of us. But as we grow older, something happens. It gets killed. How does it get killed? It gets killed because those around us tell us, stop asking questions. Stop analyzing everything. It can be from our parents, it can be from teachers, it can be from those who are our well-wishers, seemingly. But in the process, what happens is, there is something within us that gets killed. This is Pablo Picasso who said, every child, every human being is born an artist. It's just that as you go along the way, something gets killed. So curiosity, if I'm talking about it today, it's pretty strange sometimes because we are all inherently curious human beings. We are all creatures of curiosity. And something has died sometimes, I feel, somewhere for the people around us. As I've been doing Turning Point and Awesome Walkers, and when I've been doing my different events, I realize the one thing that sometimes people are stuck in places, and you would agree with me on this as practicing transaction analysis and psychologists or psychiatrists, that the possibility of something new has been blocked inside their minds. And that is the reason why they're not able to think outside the box and come up with a different solution or a different way of being. If we instill curiosity in children, if we instill and nurture the act of curiosity, what would that look like for you in your lives? What would it look like for our societies? It would put a lot of pressure on each one of us to be constantly answering questions sometimes. But the trick also is not to give answers. The trick is always just to help people find their own answers. It's about first allowing them to, giving them sometimes permission to be curious. And that itself can be a big changer. How many of you know this exercise that you have to connect all the 9 dots? So for those of you who don't know, I would encourage you to just try on a piece of paper. How many of you have a piece of paper right in front of you? Somebody did ask me right now. If you don't know the answer, give it a try. I'll give you a minute. Sumati Narayan had asked, do we have to have a notebook? And that is mindfulness. That is how we have to get into sessions, because when we do that, what happens is, while we are listening to any topic or any subject or any matter, when you watch a movie, for instance, how many of you have cried? You've cried. How many of you know that the movie is not true? It is completely made up, right? The story, they are acting it out. It's not a live scenario or situation. Still, you're crying. You're not crying for them. You're crying for your own stories. You're crying for something that has touched deep within you. What does that mean? Even while watching a movie, your mind will drift away and think of something else. And in that space, something else might have happened on the screen, which is why when you watch the same movie second time, you will say, hey, I didn't see that the first time. Happened? Now that will happen here too. When I'm speaking, you will have thoughts. Your mind will drift. Your mind will think about other things. Your mind will have other stories or incidents in your life that will pop up. use that notebook which is with you to put down those stories so that you can be present here completely, so that you can go back to that thought later. Now, the 9 dots. Does anyone have the answer who has tried it right now and got it?
How many lines do you want us to connect the 9 dots with?
Good question. 4 lines, and you should not take your hands off while you're drawing. The first line, the second line should start where the first line ends.
Okay, thank you.
It should be continuous, right? No,
It should be
continuous.
Yes.
No overlapping.
Yes. Sumati, you know the answer?
Yes, we have done already.
Okay. How many answers do you have? 1 or 2?
I think I did it only once. One answer. I have got only one answer.
There's no 2 answers.
I have only one.
You have 1. So find the second one then. Sumati, you can try for the second one. There is one more answer.
Seriously?
Be curious, you'll find the answer.
Oh, you're pulling a fast one.
No, I'm not. I'll show you the answer.
Dotted line.
So here are the 9 dots. What I want you to do is ask yourself, how can I draw 4 lines that will pass through the 9 dots?
Are both the solutions similar, or it's a different altogether?
What do you mean?
Or probably the angle might shift, or both have 4 lines.
Both have 4 lines, both are completely different in design.
Oops.
So it's not a directional change, if that is what you're asking.
So one is like a kite. I know that.
Sumati knows that as well. All right. So very quickly, just to give everyone a context over here, what happens is when you're thinking about solving this puzzle, you're contained by the 9 dots. And because you're contained by the 9 dots, your mind does not expand outside the 9 dots. You think that your answer must be contained within the 9 dots. And it has to start and end within the 9 dots. When your mind expands and starts exploring outside the confines of the 9 dots is when you will find the solution.
So one of the lines can extend beyond the dot, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me show you the answer over here. This is one way on how to do it. This is the way that Arun knows the answer for sure.
This is what I got. The kite looks like a kite. Yeah.
So one line goes up and then it extends out of the dots and goes. The second one is this.
Seriously, can you do this?
Oh my God, I drew it that way. See?
You did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I tried all the other way.
Oh.
But it has only 3 lines.
3 lines only here. Last one.
You said 4 lines. You said 4 lines.
So change
All right.
your paradigm. So make it 3 lines.
4 lines. Where's the 4th line? The invisible 4th line.
You can draw one more line and it won't count. But it's about, the point is this, right?
Actually, he said to connect the 9 dots. But
No.
one of the participants asked, do we have to draw 4 lines? That's the way it went.
Now, when you look at how the answer played out and the way that you responded to the answers, your response to the answer, whatever that was, is the way that you respond to most things in life. It's the way that
Sorry to interrupt. The catch is or less. That means it is there in the instruction.
Yeah. No. The point that I'm making over here is this. It is for our mind to stretch curiosity is about seeing what it is that you can take away from situations, see what it is that you can learn from situations, and see what it is that you can expand upon. Very often we have in our teams individuals, no matter how much ideas you give, they will always be there to say this doesn't work or that doesn't work, right? And it is for us to identify the kind of people that you surround yourself with and choose the ones who are really curious for certain roles. And for certain roles, you need people who will actually find the things that has to be corrected and fixed. And what that means is, for me, I've realized every person brings a different strength to the table. But as professionals over here, what we bring to the table as transaction analysts and psychologists and psychiatrists who are helping people in the community to expand on the possibilities of their world is to first allow our minds to stretch before we see how the minds of our patients or those around us can stretch. And if we come in from that mindset, then what will happen is everything will start stretching. When things start stretching, it means it will start expanding. When things start expanding, our world and our realities will start expanding. I want to share with you here the story of Sana. Sana Aisha. Sana is, she used to work in advertising and she became a mother. And she discovered that her son, when he was born, everybody wanted to give her advices on how to get her son to eat food. They had all kinds of solutions and recommendations and everything. And she wondered, why is it that children become fussy about food? Why should children be told? Because when we grow up, we love food, we like to eat, we like to go out, we like to dine, we are essentially people who enjoy food. So why is it that children don't enjoy food? Is it because of our approach? Is it because of the way that we feed them? And then she started experimenting different ways of engaging her son in the process of making food. And while she explored this whole concept, he got fascinated with the idea of preparing food. And when he started preparing the food, he started valuing the food even more. And while he valued the food more, he started consuming it even more. It was not something that she was pushing upon him. It was something that he wanted, that he was creating, which he was easily eating. She realized that this was a problem for so many other mothers as well. So what she did, she set up a school, a kitchen. It's an initiative in Bangalore which teaches children the value of food, where they prepare, they engage, and they go out and get these children to be fascinated about food. Now, what I love about the story is how, as a mother, her curiosity helped her find a solution, not just for her own child, but for those around her as well. And that is the power of curiosity. If you look at our lives and if you look at the things that are around us, there are so many problems that are still out there waiting to be solved. And if we can become deeply curious about it, if we can become truly curious about what it is that can be done so that we can ease the pain of somebody else, then there is always probably even a business idea and model and money to be made out there, because any business exists because it fulfills a need. And if we come from a space of not making money, but from solving a need or a pain that is there amongst those around us, there's nothing that will bring us more joy, I'm sure. This is the story of Gillian Lynn. How many of you know Gillian Lynn? Gillian Lynn was born in the 1920s. She was a lady who was a very active child. And because she was very active, she was super active in classrooms, which means disturbing other children and students and everyone in the classroom. And her mother got really worried about it. So in those days, they had still not coined the idea of ADHD. And those things came in much later on. So the mother took the child to the therapist and said, you got to figure out what's happening with her. And the therapist said, let's look and let's have a talk about it. And the therapist took the mother outside the room to have a personal discussion with her, to understand what the situation was. While he left the room, He played on the radio so that the child would not get bored in the room. While the music was playing, Gillian stood up and she couldn't stand still. She started dancing. The therapist said all she needs is to dance. So the next day, the mother took Gillian to a dance school. Gillian went on to become an amazing dancer. She started working with the likes of Andrew Lloyd Webber and was directing Cats and phenomenal musicals, and she was one of the most famous choreographers of all times, dance choreographers of all times. Why am I sharing this story over here? Curiosity from the therapist and from the mother to find out what is it that the child wants and what is it about the child. That single thought laid the seed for the child to bloom and blossom into who she became eventually. And it is just a simple idea. Be curious. We have so many people around us every single day who are feeling locked and in pain because they are not able to live their life to their potential. It could be the way the parents treat them, or it could be the way the spouse treats them, it could be the way society treats them for the things that they do. They feel they're locked into their own potential and not able to express and be who they are. But if we as caregivers, if we can go out there and if we can be curious to understand and to tap and to see what is the music that is playing in their heart, so that they'll dance that music. When they start dancing, and then dance in the literal sense, of course, you're aware of it. You can dance the music that is in each one of your hearts. What happens is the world becomes a transformative. Before I move on to the next story of this gentleman over here, it's time for reflection. I want to take a break over here and I want to hear from you. I want you to unmute yourself and I want you to share so far from the talk today. What are you taking away? So far, what is it that is opening up inside for you? Who wants to share? I'm going to call Usha. You're already unmuted, so you would like to share?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. And
Evening.
yeah, as I am a teacher and I'm always handling adolescents. So, and being a math teacher, something which I've always been trying to do is to help them to raise doubts and ask questions in class. But I often observe that since childhood, they're not encouraged to do it. Like, don't, as you said earlier, don't ask too many and enough, and you are being too talkative and things like that. So, listening to you so far, I felt very happy that what I have been trying to do, I got a positive nod from you and said that, so my heart says, Usha, you are in the right direction. Keep doing what you have been doing and encourage more to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kalpana, what's opening up for you?
What comes to my mind is, Samir, like I'm always a curious person, but from whatever I heard from you, suddenly I feel, the same pattern of thinking keeps happening. So I need to change the pattern so that, something wow opens up. I need to change the pattern of thinking.
Excellent. Indu, what's opening up for you?
What was most striking for me was the curiosity has always been there, and to act on it has also been there. And occasionally there is this bouts of teaching someone, sharing that with somebody else. But the story of Sana and the Kid Kitchen initiative is so inspiring to not just stop at being curious, but to take it to a larger, audience or a group. that's what has been an inspiration for me this evening.
Beautiful. To give you a little bit of context, all of you, about my journey so far, just so that you understand or get the picture of where I come from. I've been very deeply curious about life, and I graduated as a civil engineer in 1999. Within a year of working as an engineer, I realized this is not what I want to do. But I was curious, what do I want to do then? I joined my dad's business, I got into handicrafts. Within 2 years, I realized this is not what I want to do. What do I want to do then? I went to Bangalore, wanted to get into copywriting. I loved words and loved crafting. I wanted to get into copywriting. 6 months of trying and it not happening, I left and moved to Oroville. I wanted to get into farming then. I stayed in Oroville for some time and my family thought I went cuckoo. So they said, you are getting shipped to the Middle East, where I was born. So I went to Qatar and I was there for 2-3 years. And I knew my heart was not in it. So I served for a few years in a trading company. And then I came back to India, worked in a property management company for a year. I knew I didn't want to stay there. I moved again. And I moved to a place where I didn't know the language, I didn't know anyone. I moved to China, of all places. I went and lived in China. I was there for 8 years. When I went over there, people were asking, what do? You don't know the language, you don't know the people, you don't know anything. I'll figure it out. I'll go there and I'll find things out. So I was deeply curious by nature to find out and to learn and to grow. And when I was living there, I thought I'm going to live there for the rest of my life because I love the place so much. But after 8 years, I realized I've done everything that I can and I don't want to be there anymore. And when that realization hit me hard, within 2 weeks, I packed my bag and I left. I sold my company and I moved out of China. Not knowing what I'm going to do next, but I was deeply curious that I will do something which will add value into my life. And then I went on to doing again other things. I moved to Dubai, then I went to Qatar. I was selling paratha and karak chai, got into the hospitality business, thought that is where my life is, realized very quickly selling tea was not my cup of tea. Then I was about to move to Turkey, Istanbul, and that's when there was a bomb blast over there and I was wondering what am I going to do next. And then I found the world of NLP and coaching. And then my life moved on into this direction since 2016. Why am I sharing this story over here is this?
Nitin, I'll call you in some time.
Okay, no problem. So,
We heard you.
Sir,
yeah.
I'm just curious to know this. You have got such a rich experience in this, life of yours. And is your age around 42 to 43?
44.
44,
Good
okay. Great. And within this short life, you have got such a rich experience. Really inspiring, sir. And I liked your point, this ACT, which you spoke about. And I feel that in each and every instance in our life, we can apply this ACT. So I'm very curious to apply this ACT after you finish this session, sir.
Fantastic.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Samir, just a word. Yeah, I
Yep.
was very curious about your Chinese and you moved the way you were working in China. So when you told about yourself, I got a little answer. So out of context, that was a little curiosity in my mind why you chose China. Okay, so but now I got your answer when you told about yourself. Thank you for that.
Thank you. The reason why I'm sharing my story over here is not to impress anything, impress myself or anything, but to impress upon you the whole idea of if we are constantly curious about our own possibilities, then we will not get locked into what we are doing, because what we have done, if we continue doing, we will continue to get what we are getting. And if you want to get dramatic results, if you want to stand out and if you want to live a rich life, it means going out of the confines of the 9 dots, going outside the confines of seeing what is truly possible for you and being really curious about that. And if we can be that for ourselves, we will inspire our children, we will inspire the society around us to step out and do things that is to make a difference. And we all have the opportunity to do that. If you think about it, Elon Musk or Bill Gates, they're just humans just like us who were born as a baby, who had the same problems, who went through the same situations, who had 24 hours in their disposal. And what they made of it is what made them who they are today. We all have that opportunity in the smallest of ways, and it's not really about money, right? It's about making meaningful impact. And if we are really curious about asking ourselves, how can we leave a meaningful impact? Then we'll find the answer to that question. The first step is to ask that question. Moving on, let me speak to you about this gentleman called Mo Rahma. Mo Rahma is somebody that I met about 2 to 3 years ago. Mo, when he was growing up, his parents told him, Mo, we are Emirati family, but we are not a very rich family. We don't have so much money or anything, so you got to take care of yourself. So you got to start doing whatever you want to do. And at the tender age of 7, his parents put him into a football club. So he was playing for one of the clubs in Dubai, but at the same time, he was also going to school and doing whatever is needed, basically. But he was earning money and he had his own pocket money, so he felt more grown up from a very, very young age. As he grew older, when he hit the age of 18, he had to choose between university and football. So he was debating and asking himself, what should I choose? Finally, he thought education is the solution to all problems in life, and therefore he went to university. Within a week, he realized, I don't want to study, I want to go play football. So he went back to the club, and the club told him, no, sorry, the seat is filled up already, you will have to go continue your education. So he goes back to university. And he's like, what do I do now? Because he's been a competitive person all his life. So competition is in his blood. Playing and winning is part of who he is. And then he took up rugby. He took up rugby and he started playing rugby for UAE. He was one of the first Emiratis who was a rugby player in the UAE national team over here. Otherwise, all of them were foreigners. His career started going up, and then one fine day, he got a sponsor who was going to sponsor him for a very big money amount of, it was going to change his life completely. I think it was Red Bull that was going to sign him up. And just before the signing of the contract, he goes into a game, he meets with an injury, and he breaks his leg. And his leg is almost to be amputated. Such severe injury that he has attained that he is not able to walk, and he is no more an asset for the company, so they don't sign him on, and he's lost everything. Now, this is just one part of the story. Mo is such an inspiration to me because that was not the only thing that was going wrong in his life at that point of time. His wife was suffering from a terminal illness. She passed away. On top of it, his grandfather, who was his best friend in his life, due to old age, also passed away. Within the fraction of a few minutes, few days, few months, he lost everything that was near and dear to him and his career as well. He was devastated. Part of his journey of healing back was he had to go through water therapy. And while he was in the water, he realized he loved water. And that is when he realized his love for surfing, which emerged after that. Today he is representing UAE as a surfer for the Winter Olympics. So, curiosity, when you are asking yourself the right kind of questions and you're expanding yourself in different directions, the possibilities that can open for you are limitless. And when you can actually look at your life from a space of possibilities, from a space of unlimited possibilities and things that can actually expand for yourself and for those around you, your life becomes a true joy for you and for others. And we all, like I say, have the opportunity to do that. If we are breathing, we can make an impact. And I just came to know that Mo, last year, for the last 15 years, apparently, he was suffering from ulcerative cancer. And last year, he had colon cancer, and he got operated for that as well. So when you look at these lives, when you look at people who are going through extreme pain and suffering, and then when we realize, despite of all of this, if they're doing so much to leave an impact, why can't we? What's stopping us from doing work that is truly impactful and meaningful? And I think the answer to that question is only curiosity. We just have to be curious about how can we leave an impact and make a difference. And if we ask that question to ourselves, the answer will emerge. If that is a question that we're constantly asking ourselves and seeing how can we make a meaningful difference to those around us, the answer has to emerge, because that is the way of the world. Next story. But before we go into this story, I'd like to hear reflections. What are you taking away from what was just shared? Who would like to share? Your sharing can help someone else. Your sharing can expand somebody else's thinking. So who wants to go? Please unmute yourself and share.
May I? I'm Rekha
Yes.
here.
Hi, Rekha. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Samir. Yeah. See, when you said about all these stories, what my understanding is, there is always possibilities around us. So it is we who has to open our senses to grab the opportunities around us. And I would always say, like, there is always blessing in disguise. There is a better calling waiting for you. I have seen a lady like I know a cancer survivor. I don't know her deep story, but recently I heard her deep story is like she became a single mother at that time. At that time is where she was diagnosed with the third stage of cancer, and she had two small sons whom she had to handle single-handedly. And she was strong enough, one, and she had friends and relatives who had supported her financially, morally, and emotionally. And she now her both the sons are grown up, and they are at the age of 20 plus. So that's a beautiful thing. And again, I can also reflect upon my own life, where few years ago I lost my job uh, when there was like job cuts, and then I got into another organization where there was lots of politics. I hated that. Without any plan, I quit the job. But those disasters, I can say, is what led me now to become a trainer, where I'm exchanging knowledge and learning from others. So I would say my life is beautiful. So this is what I want to share in this forum.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Rekha, for sharing that. They always say setbacks are setups for something that is beautiful ahead.
Exactly.
Setbacks are setups for something that is beautiful lying ahead. Sheila, yes.
Yeah. From what I've heard from you so far, and people's sharing, what comes through to me is one has to go along with the flow. When you're moving along with the flow of things without trying to restrict or trying to change too much the things around you, but when you flow along, I think you automatically find things that are right for you. Or you, like in the case of the dancer, her mother did not say, oh, she's not capable. She said, okay, I accept she's not capable, let me find out why, what could be the reason for it. So there was a flowing along with the thing. Again, in the case of this athlete, he just flowed along with whatever was happening to him, and as he flowed along, his mind opened up to what else could be done. So I think flowing along is essential, which opens up our areas of curiosity.
Beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely. Yes, Priya.
Two things came to my mind after listening to all the stories. One, I was able to connect with my own life. The first experience you talked about, the child's mother who was concerned about the child not eating. I was able to relate that to my kid, who's a 9-year-old, and I still struggle a lot in terms of getting her to establish a proper eating habit. It's like she's developed a hatred towards food. So that was very interesting, where I feel like I have to try that out, where this mother engaged that kid in cooking. So maybe that might help. So that was something with my personal experience I thought I should try. And another thing which came to my mind was I was living in New Zealand for 8 years. So how the culture there works is there is no restriction of learning in terms of age. I found that only after I went there, in terms of, I was doing a course in alcohol and drug addiction. And there were people from different age groups. There were people, 60-year-old was there, a 65-year-old were there. So that was very different for me from being living in India and moving there. So it's about the age doesn't matter, like you said, no? It's about at that age, they want to rediscover themselves and do something new. And they went with that flow of getting a new skill and getting a new job. I felt growing up in India, there was always that narrow vision of, you have educated yourself in this particular field. So you stick on to that field. You don't go off, suppose you're an engineer, you have to get yourself a work in that field and not go off of something totally different to what you have studied. So that was a very interesting concept for me there when I went there. And so those two incidents kind of reminded me about, so you don't need to restrict yourself in terms of the age. So you can do what you want to do at any age.
Thank you so much, Priya, for sharing that. And while you're sharing that, what opens up for me is this. One is when we are hit with problems, and you can all, for a minute right now, think about what is the number one problem that you're facing, either with your spouse or with your child or with anyone. Think of a problem and ask yourself, are you trying to solve the problem in the same way for the last months or days or years? Or are you looking at an alternate approach? Are you exploring ways for your own challenges that you are facing? And sometimes we can get stuck in the rut because we don't observe it, because we are in the frame and we are experiencing it. And because of that, we are not able to detach ourselves from it, and we're not able to look at it objectively. The second one is, just like what Priya shared, when you're growing up, you have 2 or 3 options, right? If you're the son of an Indian, you can either be what they say, you can be a engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or a nobody, they say, right? So I chose engineering. I went through engineering. The first, I think, very initially itself in the classes, I realized I didn't want to do engineering because it was a feeling that was deep rooted within me, that I knew that this was wrong. This is not who I am. And I was doing it because of the external sources. And one of the lessons that I learned from, on a lighter note, the engineering classes, one of the first things that I learned was the teacher, one of our professors, saying, when you are a doctor and you're taking care of a patient, you're responsible for that one life at a time. But as a civil engineer, you're building a building. So you're responsible for the entire population in that building. So be careful what you choose in life. And I decided I don't want to be a civil engineer after that. But jokes apart, when I discovered the world of coaching, and when I discovered that I want to become a coach and I want to become who I am today, at the age of 39, I went and spoke to my parents and my family. The response was, strangely, Samir, because every time I shared with you my story about me constantly changing from one job to another, going from one place to another, doing things completely out of the box or out of the way, going and selling paratha and corrects, I can imagine, of all the things that I go and start getting into a cafeteria business and start doing that. And at each point of time, they were like, Samir, why are you doing this? You just go and be a civil engineer, or just do something more suited for you. So when I discovered the world of coaching, the response from everyone around was, Samir, this is what you should have been doing always. Why didn't you choose this? Why didn't you choose this earlier? And my question to them is, why didn't you tell me about it earlier? And the fact is, It's not the fault of our parents. It's not the fault of the caregivers. It's not the fault of us individuals sometimes. Because when we live within the 9 dots, when we don't come from a space of curiosity, when we don't come from a space of exploration, we can miss the signs, because we will impose our certainty or our way of looking at the world on the people around us. It can be to a child, it can be to a friend, it can be to a spouse, it can be to our parents, it can be to anyone around us. When we don't come from a space of possibility, when we don't come from a space of curiosity, the words that we choose and the things that we say will be completely different than if we come from a space of curiosity. Language and the words that we use are everything. And that brings me to my next story. Omar el-Heglan. Omar el-Heglan is the son of his Saudi parents, and he was living and studying in the United States. As he was studying in the United States, his father, who was the ambassador of Saudi Arabia to the United States, which means he was a diplomat, he was working as ambassador to the United States, and his son was growing up over there. His father retired and went back to Saudi Arabia. And when Omar finished his education and studies, his father told him, come back. Come back, I have a job for you over here in Saudi. He didn't want to go, but he didn't want to disappoint his father either. Like all good sons, he said, I'll come back. So he came back, and as he reached, his father told him, sorry son, that job is not there anymore. The person is not in that role, so I cannot ask him. So go and find a job. So he went and found a job in a bank. He didn't like it, but he was hardworking. So he sat and he worked, and he worked and he worked. After months, he was asking to himself, is this my life? Am I going to be like this? Is this how I'm going to end up? And then suddenly, he got curious about making money. He said, I want to make a lot of money. Who can make a lot of money in a bank? And then, like a light bulb, it struck him. I am working in the HR department. I have the file of the organization. All I have to do is look it up. So he turned back, looked at the filing cabinet, and started flipping through all the employees list. He found out the person who was making the most amount of money. And then he started waiting to meet the person in the trading department so that he could be part of the trading team. He would sit at his desk working away on one side, and on the other side his eyes would be pointed to the lift, waiting for the lift to open one day so that when he catches this person who is a manager at a top floor in the trading department come out, he can go and catch him and tell him that he wants to be part of the team. After days, one fine day, this gentleman walks to that lift. He jumps from his chair, rushes to the lift, holds the guy and tells him, I want to work in your department. You don't know who I am. My name is Omar and I want to be in your team. The guy is like, whoa, stay, stop. What are you talking about? And then he says, okay, come next day to my office. The next day he goes to the top floor, he gets the job. He gets the job, he starts doing the job, and he started progressing very well. He starts making a lot of money. He makes a lot of money because in trading, if you really do trading properly, you make a lot of money. So he made a lot of money, and it was time for his appraisal. It was time for his promotion. It was time for his boss to do an assessment of him. He was about to go into the office and do the assessment. While he was going to do that, he just looked to the right and to the left of him. His two colleagues who were sitting over there, and he looked at their hands and he saw them shaking and completely nervous, and those people were completely on pills and doing things where it was a very, very, very stressful job, and he was doing all of this for money. He was not doing it because he loved the job or he was passionate about it. And he asked himself, is this a life I really want to live? He put in his papers And he went back to his dad. He said, "Dad, I did what you asked me to do. I came back, I found a job, I made money. I'm done. I'm going back to the US." Now, he left. He went to the US. Like I said over here, like I shared my story. He had no clue what he was going to do. He went to the US. And then he was sitting in a shop and having his evening meals. And the guy who was selling sushi talks to him about a business idea to start a sushi bar. He says, "Okay, let's do it." And he starts a sushi bar. Curiosity led him to start the business, but it didn't let him stay in the business. While he was doing the business, he heard about an event that was happening and he went for it. Let me show you Omar. That is Omar. When I met with Omar, and he was explaining to me about his whole journey of his life, and he was telling me after that first jump that he did when he jumped from the plane and landed on the ground, he landed on the ground and he said he threw his hands up in the air and he screamed at the top of his lungs and said, "God, I was born to do this." And each one of us has something within each one of us that we were meant to do, that we have all the skills and the potential and the strength to make our lives meaningful by doing the things that we love to do, that makes us come alive. And if we can choose that, not only for ourselves, but for those around us, if we can choose what makes people come alive, imagine the society that we would live in. Completely out of the box profession, skydiving. Can you even imagine your son or daughter coming and saying, "I want to live the rest of my life diving from planes"? If you can imagine, it means you have a mind filled with curiosity and possibility. It means you have a mind that is accepting of things as they are and not limiting things from your own way of looking at things. What's even more inspiring for me about Omar's journey is this. As I got to know Omar, I got to know that he has a daughter. His daughter's name is Dunya. Dunya was 7 years old when I met her for the very first time. Now, Dunya was someone that I said, "I want to go and interview." So I called her in for an interview and everyone was asking, "What are you going to ask a 7-year-old? And what are you going to do with a 7-year-old? And what is she going to talk?" And I said, "I don't know." And whenever I hold my talks or whenever I host conversations where I have people coming in, let me show you. I don't know if I... So if you go on YouTube, you'll find a few of my conversations that I've had with different people. This is Mo Rahma. If you would like to, you can listen to Mo's entire conversation over here. It's 1 hour 37 minutes. So when we come into this space and have conversations, I always tell my guests, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I have no idea what my questions are going to be about. I'm going to be deeply curious about your life in the moment when we are having the conversation. The questions that will come up at that point of time is what I will ask you. If you're comfortable with that, please do come. And they ask me, "Why do you do it like this?" And I say, if I give you the questions, then you'll speak from your head. If you don't know what the questions are, then you'll speak from your heart. And when you speak from your heart, you will connect to other hearts. So are you willing to do that? And it comes from a space of vulnerability. It comes from a space of being open and honest. So when I had Dunya as a guest and I was interviewing her, the question that she answered and the way that she answered was so profound. And every time I asked her a question, she would have amazing answers. You know, like for example, before we started the session, there are so many videos of her playing jiu-jitsu, scuba diving, high diving, skydiving. She's giving motivational talks with her dad on stage. And she's just 7, all right? And she's doing all of this. And this is the video that they had shown earlier. Later on, they showed a video of she falling down and tripping and falling and making all the mistakes before she perfected all of these things. So while she was in the crowd that day, somebody asked her, he asked her, what does failure mean to you? Because you've achieved so much of success at a very young age. And this little girl's answer is, success is what you get before you get failure. And like this, every question that we ask her, she's so profound, and we're all thinking. And I was like, at one point of time, I got really frustrated. And I was asking her, Dunya, is there anything that you don't know? Because you seem to have the answer to every question that I ask. And her answer is, yes, there is one thing that I don't know. And the fact is, whenever she answers, she doesn't answer instantly. She pauses, she thinks, the whole room is quiet, sometimes for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute, and nobody is uttering a word. And from somewhere deep within, she is bringing out these answers. And she says, there's only one thing that I don't know. And that is how to be perfect, because no one can be perfect. You hear answers like this from a child, you start wondering, what is this child? How is this child so special? And how does she become like this? And then what I realize is, she is a big part of it, definitely. But an even bigger part is her father. Because when I called her father and said, I want to have your child as a guest on the show, his response was, let me check with her and see what she wants to do. If she wants to be there, we will be there. In that evening, when there was something that the father wanted to share with the entire audience who were there that day, he was about to say, then he asked Dunya, can I share this story about you to the audience? And she said, say it in my ear first. So he goes and tells a 7-year-old girl the story. And she says, no, don't share it with the audience. And he asks, but why? It makes you look good. It's something that you have done which is great and nice. And she says, no, I don't want them to see me like that. The wisdom that is there is a result of what I realized is a father's way of being curious constantly about Dunya's world, her thoughts, rather than impose upon her his thoughts. Even he realized that day. He was saying that he was constantly putting a lot of pressure on her to think, to make her own choices, and to be responsible for those choices. We as caregivers, we sometimes go astray where we tend to fall into the trap of giving advices and telling people what to do. Because we feel we have seen enough things in our life, so this has to be the way it has to be done. And in that moment, what happens is we say goodbye to curiosity. We say goodbyes to new possibilities. We say goodbye to new things that could happen. Maybe it is the right way to do it, but if that is a choice that is coming from that person, it is more empowering, it's more powerful, it's more meaningful, it has more ownership, that thought or that idea. And that can come when we come from a space of curiosity, when we come from a space and world of possibilities. So Dunya has been one of the most inspiring stories in my life. A 7-year-old who taught me about what is really possible in this world and what can happen to individuals. And if you look at any person who is really successful, you'll see behind them beautiful caregiving by parents who have been curious while they were raising the child. How many of you know who this is? Anyone? He's a very famous actor. His name is Gary Cooper. He acted in a movie that was made out from a book. And I think there might be quite a few people here, I'm guessing, who might have read the book. The book is called The Fountainhead. How many of you have read the book The Fountainhead?
My favorite, super all-time favorite. The book that inspired me a lot.
Mine too.
What age did you read it?
I read at different ages, different points of my time, and different points of time it gave me a different perspective altogether. If at all, if there is one thing that inspires me, one thing that I hold as a role model, Howard Rourke. Howard Rourke is my role model. Awesome, awesome, awesome means awesome book. One book that has captivated, inspired me. You put anything, no person, nothing except Fountainhead. Fountainhead is the book.
I read it when I was 16.
Yeah.
That kind of changes everything.
What changed for you? Because I read it around the similar age as well. What changed for you when you read it at that age?
I learned the value of independence, the individualistic thinking. And when we come from a traditional home where you do as you're told, that is the rule. You need to follow, and especially for a girl, the restrictions are many, many. And to think that one can think outside that book opened up the possibilities that an individual can actually put himself above everybody else. That individualistic thinking, which I hold very close to my heart, came at that age.
Yeah.
So I became a rebel. Because the only way an individual can survive in the society is when we don't want to follow what they say, we become a rebel, according to others. But that's a path.
Yeah, that is a path. And I guess now you might make the connection why I kept jumping from one job to another and not giving up on myself and doing what I believed was right for myself. And the moment we as individuals can come from that space of individuality, when we come from that space of ownership for ourselves, and when we start being curious about ourselves and what is it that we are capable of, when we dig deep into ourselves and ask ourselves, what can shift for us? Howard Rourke is truly inspiring from that sense. There was an interview that happened in our college in the final year where one of my batchmates wrote in his. So let very quickly give a context for those who have not read the book. The book is, Sumati, would you like to do it? I would love to hear your take on what the book is about.
The book is about an individual wanting to do what he wants, and he's an architect. So his creations are always different. And when nobody likes his work, he will not follow what the usual norm is. So his belief is a house should not have anything which doesn't have a function, which has a meaning or purpose. No house should have that. So he's a very idealistic person who doesn't care about relationships, care about people. More than saying he is not caring about people, it would be appropriate to say he cared more about his own beliefs, following what he thought was right. I mean, in the process, he loses a lot of relationships and things like that. And he walks tall with that, and that is what the story is all about. And he constructs a house which, according to others, is the most horrible building one can construct, and he defends that house in a case when there is an order for, I think, to demolish or something. But he stands in the court and defends his work. Most of the lines that are it is a very idealistic book, and I have often wondered whether anyone can live according to that. And I am finding one or two people living like that now in my life. I'm finding it now. Yes, it is very tough, but that individualism is what is preached or not, what is proposed in that book.
He set standards to himself. He didn't follow any known principles, nothing. He set his own standards, and that's the way he lived. He lived. Come what may, I'll stick up to my principles, stick up to what I stand for, and that is one aspect. Really, really liked. He backstabbing happens. He gets heartbroken by Elizabeth. Whatever character was, he was, and it was an amazing mix of story. Awesome.
So it's one of the very, thank you, Arun. It's one of the very few books where I remember a lot of characters in the book. There is Howard Rock, there's Peter Keating, there's Gail Wyman, there's Ellsworth Toohey, there's Dominic Franklin. There's all these different characters who all bring in.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, what's the full name?
Lover.
Dominic Franklin is the lover.
Oh, Dominic. Okay, sorry. Mixed up with something else.
You mixed up with some other Elizabeth?
Yes.
That book I felt led me to another one, The Virtue of Selfishness.
By Ayn Rand. You are disconnecting. I think the connection, there's a problem. I'm not able to hear you. Yeah, I think there's a connection problem, but it's okay.
He's talking about Atlas Shrugged, I think.
Yeah. Also a phenomenal book, yes. So imagine, as caregivers and nurturers and people who are in the field that we are we really empowering those around us to be individualistic? Or are we limiting them? Are we giving them hope? Are we giving them courage? Are we allowing them to be themselves and fly with wings like Howard Rock? In college, at the end, when there were campus interviews happening, one of my friends, one of my batchmates, he had put as one of his favorite books as The Fountainhead in his CV. So the one who was recruiting asked him a question. Who are you, a Howard Rock or a Peter Keating? Peter Keating is the individual who goes through the norms, gets a job, does everything that society expects you to do. And if he says he wants to be a Peter Keating, because the opening of the book is where Howard Rock gets rid of his degree, doesn't finish his college, and walks out of the graduation ceremony, and he doesn't care about all of these things. And Peter Keating is one who is the topper in the class. So essentially, it's almost like a trick question. Are you a Howard Rock or a Peter Keating? And it's a question for each one of us actually over here. Are we someone who are individualistic, who are powerful in what we stand for, or are we someone who will bend for what society demands out of us? And his answer was beautiful. He said, I guess I am like most people who wants to be a Howard Rock, but ends up being a Peter Keating. He got the job, but yeah. So you did mention, is there a person really like this in this world? And he was really modeled around Frank Lloyd Wright, who was an architect of those times, who was one of the guys who came closest, who Ayn Rand modeled Howard Rock as a character. This is one of his most famous architecture called the Falling Water House, which is a testament of his work. Awesome Workers, again, is what I spoke about, where I shared how I would come in from a space of curiosity. And when I did the first session, when I did the very first session of this, I had no clue what I was getting into. I had no idea what I was creating or starting. I just knew I loved conversations, and I just got a few friends of mine and said, let's come together and have a conversation. And they were like, yeah, but what are we going to talk about? I said, I don't know, just come, we'll figure it out. And when almost all the 20 of them asked me the same question, I said, okay, let me get out of these 20 people, 2 people, and have a conversation with them instead of having a conversation with everyone. So I picked one male and one female and started having a conversation with them. It went on for an hour each. And at the end, I asked the audience, how did they like it? They said they loved it because it was open heart conversation. Nothing was structured. And for the guest also, they had to prepare nothing, and they had to just come over there and be themselves and who they are and share their story and journey. In that, at the end of that session, there was a gentleman who was sitting over there who was the past international president of Toastmasters. So the global president of Toastmasters was an Emirati guy, and he's a good friend of mine, and he was part of that first session. I asked him, how do you like this session? What do you think about it? And he gave me a feedback that I've kept to my heart, and that I've seen when anyone keeps to their heart, it transforms the way that they do their work and live their life. And the advice that he gave me was this: Samir, what you're doing is amazing, brilliant. Just make sure what you do is never about you. And that was one of the best advices I could get on a journey where I was interviewing people. And if you look at everything that we do, if we make it about ourselves, it's very different than when we make it about others. And when we choose to make it about others, the choices we make, the things we do, and the way that we will live our life will be so different compared to when we make it about ourselves. And that is one of the biggest lessons that I've got out of Awesome Workers. While I go in and continue to have conversations with people, it's always about seeing and asking, what can I learn from somebody else? And this is the same by this gentleman. This gentleman's name is Brandon Stanton. Brandon was a photographer who used to take photographs of people, everyday people in New York. How many of you have heard or know of Brandon Stanton? Anyone here? Brandon Stanton is a photographer who is one of the under 30 influential people in the US. His photographs has garnered so much views, and the most beautiful thing about his photographs is, along with the photographs, while he takes photographs of everyday people, he has a short conversation with them. Probably short, probably long, but he captures a small part of that conversation and he posts it along with the photograph on his Facebook page. Now these posts started going viral because of the way that he crafts the stories around the photograph. And one such story was that of this young child. He met this child on the streets and he asked him a question. Vidal, who has influenced you the most in your life? His answer was, my principal, Ms. Lopez. How has she influenced you? When we get in trouble, she doesn't suspend us. She calls us to her office and explains to us how society was built down around us. And she tells us that each time somebody fails out of school, a new jail cell gets built. And one time she made every student stand up one at a time, and she told each one of us that we matter. What a powerful message. A message from a principal who believes that if children don't go to school, then they're going to jail. This is from the neighborhood in New York where there is a lot of crime, and these children are really coming from poor families and they really don't have any support. Now, Brandon got really curious about this, and this went really viral. You can see over here more than 1 million views at the time of this photograph being taken of this post. So he decided to go and meet the principal. He goes and meets the principal, Lopez, and he finds out what an inspiring lady she is. A lady who was committed to making sure that the life of the children are really transformative, that they will really make a difference and not go to jail and live a life of misery. This commitment that he saw from her made him ask her, because his photographs were never about money. His photographs was something that he was doing for society. It was just something where he was capturing stories, and he had no other intention other than to do that work alone. But as he kept doing this work, he asked her, all these, they don't have funds, they don't have support, the community is not really supporting them so much. So he asked, how can my community, my Facebook community, support you? Is there anything that we can do for you? And she said, all these children who are here in the schools, they don't have hope. They have nothing to look forward to. And I really want to give them a chance. I really want them to go and see Harvard University and just go there for internship or just do something over there. How much money would that require? And then they did a fundraising, or I think the goal was for 100,000 or so, but they hit within 15 days 1.4 or 1.5 million dollars. This is the power of curiosity, of what you can do for other people, the possibilities of what can expand in life. The story doesn't end there. It goes on to become even more beautiful. The fund is raised, they give the money to the school, The kids go to Harvard, they go and visit the campus, and she says, when there is a TED talk by Lopez as well, you can find on YouTube, where she speaks about this whole journey. And she says the brightness in the eyes and the way that children felt, how the world can open up to new things, because until that point of time, they were limited in what they were thinking for themselves and what was capable for themselves. A whole new world of possibility opens up for them because there are people in this world willing to help and support and do something for them as well. The most beautiful part of the story is Vidal and Lopez's story gets viral, and then they get to go meet the president at the White House. And there is a photograph, if you search on the internet, where you will find that young boy sitting in the President of the United States chair, and Obama on the right and Lopez on the left. Anything is possible, my friends. Anything is possible if you let your imagination go wild. If you let possibilities into your world. If you allow curiosity to be a part of who you are. In everything that you do, not in certain things that you do, but to make it like a muscle where you exercise it every single day in every single thing that you do. For me, this whole experience of coming and presenting over here to you, I am curious because I am learning over here. I am exploring myself a whole new topic of how I can add value to someone who is much more experienced than I am. And that curiosity is leading me to find something from within myself. The same applies to each one of us. And if we become curious about our lives, then our lives will become richer and those around us will become richer. You can buy the book. It's called Humans of New York. You can find the Facebook page as well, and you can read the stories on the Facebook link. Humans of New York. You can follow them. It led me to write my own book called The Awesome Cup. Awesome Cup is a book that I wrote where I asked myself, how long do I have to live? Let me ask each one of you this question. How long do you have to live? None of us know the answer to that question, right? We could be gone in this moment. In the next moment, we could be gone. And I asked myself, if I had to leave a message for my children, if I had to leave a message for the people behind of the life that I have lived and the things that I have learned, what would that be? Answering that question made me write that book in 30 days. If you have a deep desire to leave a meaningful impact, if you have a deep sense of purpose of what you're doing, then the possibilities that will open for you are limitless. And when I wrote that book, I knew that is not going to be my last book as well. So I started fine-tuning and working upon it and improving upon it. There was no end. Then I realized this is not my last book. I might write more books. So let my imperfections also show up if that be the case. Awesome Cup is a story of 5 friends who come together for a college reunion. And they come for a college reunion and they learn about the art of conversations. Conversation is something that I'm deeply passionate about. And how I discovered this is when at Awesome Walkers, one of the guests, she said, I just came back from India after finishing my education. I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew is I love to talk. So I wanted to find something that was around talking. And that's how she ended up becoming an RJ. And that was around 2 years into my journey of Awesome Walkers. And I asked myself, if she loves talking, what is it that I love so much? And when I explored that, I discovered the answer to that question is, I loved conversations. I love talking to people. I love the possibilities that opens up when you speak to someone. And just by being curious about the other person, you open up their own world. And that's what we all do, right? As coaches, as psychiatrists, as professionals in transaction analysis, for definitely this is what we do. We explore the world through the art of conversations, through deep conversations, by looking at the words that are said and the words that are not said, by the words that people are saying to others and by the words that they're saying to themselves. And by creating and identifying those distinctions, we realize the meaningful impact that we can leave, because everything that happens in the space of words. The quality of our life depends on the quality of our conversations, I always say. If our quality of our conversations improve, the quality of our life will improve. The quality of conversations either with others or with ourselves. Next is the story of Zildis. Before I get into the story of Zildis, very quickly, I'd like to hear from somebody over here who has not shared. What are you taking away so far from what has been shared so far? Sudhir, would love to hear from you.
Yes, my takeaway is a very simple thing that I mean, as an individual, I've had curiosity about life and what life is all about, and there is nothing which I don't like to not explore. Everything which comes my way, I explore it, I accept it, and I inquire into it, and then see what is there available for me. Or even if it is not available for me, I just, as a matter of curiosity, I try to learn things. That's about all. And I think that it is like somebody said, it is it's something which somebody goes through a bad time and suddenly it looks like as if it's been a gift from God, or that you are faced with an opportunity rather than whatever the mess that you're in that you find an opportunity. Yes, it does happen, but it need not happen in everybody's life. I mean, everybody's life is not full of that kind of drama. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I have really enjoyed each and every aspect of my life. I'm an engineer by profession, but by hobby, I'm an actor. I work on stage, and I have done a lot of, I spent almost 60 years on stage. And I mean, there is nothing that I do not wish not to do. I've been, when with problems, I started doing marathons. Now I'm 75 years, and the last one I did was January last year, because after that they stopped, the senior citizens to come out and run. So that is how, I mean, I have lived my life, and I think the most inspiring thing about what you're saying is that don't bottle up your curiosity. Keep it open, keep it coming, and you will enjoy life. That's what I'm doing. I'm really enjoying myself. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing and inspiring us. Ever since COVID struck, and we have all been isolated and staying within our houses, I've made it like what you just said over here right now, Sudhir, that I want to fill my life with experiences. I want to fill my life with things that I've not done and things that I want to explore and do things new. And that is why I guess next month I have signed up to go climb Kilimanjaro. I have never done something like that of the sort, but it's the whole mindset and the whole idea of doing something that scares and that's exciting. It's truly beautiful. And I guess we should all ask ourselves, what is it that we can do to fill our life with amazing experiences that will bring us great learning, great joy, and great opportunities as well. Gonzalez, I'd like to hear from you. What are you taking away so far from today's conversations that we are having?
I have a question for you, Samir. Where do you draw the line between curiosity and intuition?
You would know the answer.
I don't know the answer myself, because I often keep doing things by the gut. I think I can call it intuition, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong. And I am curious, which is why I always keep looking for solutions whenever a problem crops up. In fact, I'm in a job where I'm supposed to find solutions for everyone. They dump their problems on my head. But I'm very curious to know about the relationship, be it causal or otherwise, between curiosity and intuition.
It's a very interesting question, and I will try to attempt answering that. I'm not saying my answer is going to be the perfect one. I'm not saying that this is how it should be, because I'm exploring. I'm curious about how to answer that question actually over here. Intuition is for ourselves.
True.
Curiosity can be for ourselves and for others. when we don't impose our intuitions on others, when you keep your intuitions for yourself and you keep curiosity for others, then they're two different things. They're not the same. They're not on the same wavelength. They're two completely different entities by itself, right? So intuition is how you operate. It's your operating model of how you make judgments or how you take decisions. Curiosity is what triggers that, perhaps. Curiosity comes before that. Curiosity does not come along with that or after that. So
my experience has been a little different, Samir, in the sense, if I go back way back in time, what I loved doing is what I'm doing today, and yet I never found an opportunity to do it upfront. But I kept doing it in every single kind of job that I managed to get along the way and progress, and always stayed close to it because something kept drawing me to it, and I thought that was my intuition. I would like to think that's my intuition, but I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. But it just kept drawing me there. And today I'm probably a lot more into what I love doing. Yet I'm not in the in a perfect setting where I can actually do what I like to do.
So two stories come to mind. One is curiosity and intuition. To me right now, what is coming to my mind is it could be question and answer. Curiosity can be the questions and intuition can be the answers. So it's Q&A. It's completely from that spectrum. Curiosity is not the answer. Curiosity is always a question that triggers the answer. And the answers can be through either intuition, through judgment, through rationalizing the logical mind and the emotional mind. You go to find your answers from either one of them. I'm just like you, a very intuitive person. I listen to my heart, I listen to my feelings, I listen to the energy that I feel at a given point of time, and I operate from that space as well. Curiosity is something that triggers this whole journey because it is exploring the world of possibilities. I think, does that answer a little bit of your question? I'm not sure that it is a perfect.
Maybe in part, but I'm still going to hunt for the answer for that. Because I really need to know why I love to do certain things that I love to do, and I keep doing it and doing it ever so often, and I enjoy doing it. And
so here is one thing that I've one thing that has changed my life is if I look at my life, there are so many different career turning points, and one of the most powerful turning points for me in my life was the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Test. When I did the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Test and I identified what my strengths were. If you have done the test, you would know that there are 34 different strengths that every individual has. Every individual holds 34 different strengths, but the difference is the sequence in which you hold it. The strengths are common to all, but the sequence is different. And when I explored the Clifton Strengths, and when I got coached around the Clifton Strengths, today I coach people around the Clifton Strengths, and it's life-changing when you get coached around the Clifton Strengths, because you really start understanding why you do the things that you do, why certain things brings you joy, because there are certain things that comes into our life and we are naturally good at. Those are our natural strengths. Those are strengths that are there inherently within us. And sometimes we assume that everyone has these strengths. Now, for example, consistency, discipline is not my core strength. It's not something that I do very well. But creativity, strategy, ideation, these are things that comes brilliantly and naturally to me. Now, if I were to operate in sections where I had to be disciplined and consistent in certain aspects, it would give me a loss of power. Weakness, according to Gallup, is defined as anything that comes in the way of your strength, that you're not able to use or operate your strengths, it becomes your weakness. It's not that the things that are at the end of the spectrum is your weakness. It's when you are not able to utilize your strengths, it becomes your weakness. So when you look at the jobs that you have had in the past, and if you look at the things that you're doing right now, and if you think about why you enjoy certain things and why you don't enjoy certain other things. It's because you're able to utilize your strengths to a greater potential in those elements over there. And one of the things that comes to our lives is this. There'll be people who will tell us that you do things very well. Like, for example, when I was doing Awesome Walkers, people used to walk up to me and say, Samir, you host the conversations amazing. You ask great questions. And I'm like, anyone can ask questions. What's so great about asking questions, right? It's the most simple thing to do. And I'm like, they're doing all the work. They're telling their story. They're sharing their life. All I'm doing is sitting here listening and asking questions. That's all I'm doing. Maybe I ask in an hour, maybe I'll ask 3 questions, 5 questions, 10 questions. That's it. But still, they say the way you ask those questions is meaningful and powerful. And what is really happening over there is when the guest is also coming and speaking, they're sharing things that they have never shared before. And they are not able to realize that, oh my God, I've shared this with this group of people. And that happens. They come into a space of, so I realized that it was my strength. And when you know what your strengths are, and when you are able to tap into them, the choices you make in your life becomes dramatically different. It becomes so much more empowering. You realize what to say yes to and what to say no to. You realize how to proceed with your life in a way that is every single day utilizing what is your God-given gift. The purpose of life, when I was doing a session with children once, I was doing a talk, and I go into this conversation in schools and I do these sessions where I don't have a topic, I don't have a session, I don't have a speech prepared. I go there, I stand on stage and I start with a question. I listen to the answer and then I from there take on the next question, and then we go into a conversation with the children. And as these are 13-year-old children, and we are having this conversation. As we are having the conversation, one of the questions that pops up is the purpose of life. And I'm like blown away. 13-year-old talking about purpose of life. And I'm like, how many of you have an opinion about the purpose of life? And about 6-7 hand goes up. I said, all of you come up to the stage. So this is about 200-300 students sitting in the audience. I call this 4, 5, 6 students up on the stage with their chairs. They come, they sit down, we are having the conversation. And out of this one girl's answer is something that I still remember till date. Asking her what is the purpose of life, her definition was, we are not born with a purpose in life. We are given a life so that we find our purpose in life.
Brilliant.
And that was such a powerful message. The teachers who were sitting over there had goosebumps. They're like, our children are saying things like this. And then when I discovered Gallup and I discovered all this coaching and all those things, I asked myself, what is the purpose of life and how do you define the purpose of life for each one of us? All of you might have different answers, and I would have loved to know what your answers are, but because of lack of time, I'm going to share what my definition, what I find is the most empowering one. A purpose of life is to find the greatest God-given gift or strength that we have, and then to use it to serve humanity. And when we can do that, this is the message of across the speech, what I'm delivering today, to choose what comes to us and to be aware of what is within us and to live a life where we are totally individualistic like Howard Rock, and to go out there and live a life where we live without compromise and we start living a life where we believe in ourselves to the very core. What is possible for ourselves in society is so beautiful, so magical. And we all have the possibility to do that. I'm not sure if you should continue seeking the answer to that, Gonzalez, and I'm sure you will find something which resonates with your life, with your journey, with your stories. There will be something that when it connects, the entire script will just fall into place in that moment. For me, and I'm sure for others also who have read The Fountainhead, when it comes at a certain age, certain books, certain movies, certain messages, it just falls into place. And sometimes you don't even have to really. When I was preparing for this talk, for example, I was very sure I'm not going to have 5 things you have to do to be curious or 10 things you have to do to be curious, and then you can solve all your problems. I was very sure that that is not going to be my approach. I'm going to share stories over here, and I don't know what will open up for you guys. And I'm completely open and curious to the possibilities of what can open up. And each one will connect in different ways. Each one will take away something different and unique. And that takeaway is more important than my lessons or my stories. Because what's shared over here is not about me. What is shared over here is not about those people, those stories that I'm sharing. It's truly about each one of you. And if you get that part, if you get the fact that it is about your choices, your life, and the way that you look at life that can transform magically, then the session would find having its job done. Very quickly, let me just go into Zulda's story. Zulda's is an amazing story. I met her about 2 years again back, and she came in and she was talking about, she's from Kyrgyzstan. Her father is a surgeon. One fine day, she tells her father, when she's young, she's about 16 or so, that I want to shape my legs. I want to get better legs. So the father is like, okay, come to the hospital tomorrow. So she thinks her father is going to do surgery and going to make her legs look beautiful and all that stuff. As she is going into the hospital, her father takes her to the wards where there are people who have broken legs, injured legs, legs which are completely infected, etc. And as he's taking her through the hallways and she's seeing all of this, she reaches his office and he asks her, do you still want to have better legs? She says, no, I'm fine with my legs. But the fact is this, life has a cruel way of coming and biting you back in the place where it should not bite. And through some weird curse, her legs got paralyzed. And they said that they will have to cut her legs off. Now she was determined, she was committed. She said, no, I'm going to heal my legs back. With the power of her mind, she started for months lying in bed, waiting for one finger to wiggle, one at a time. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. She kept working on it until her toes began to move and then her legs began to move. And then finally she could stand and then she could walk. She healed herself back and she realized the power of the mind. And how she utilizes this later in life is quite comical, because when she realized the power of the mind and what it can truly do, she desired for triplets, and she got triplets in her life. She had 3 children that was born on the same time. The story might be a little amusing on one side and a little disheartening on the other side, but the fact is, the things that we choose in our minds, the things that we create in our minds will happen. It becomes our reality. Sometimes it makes us fall sick. It releases toxic chemicals in our body. It makes us go through diseases. It makes us really suffer. Not only ourselves, but sometimes the way that we are might make somebody else suffer. The choice of our words are so important. And if we can choose the right ones, and if we can come from a space of curiosity, and if we can come from a space where we really want somebody to grow, prosper, and become something amazing. Oh, this is an amazing gentleman. I have to tell, this is the last story, I hope. Yes, this is the last story I have to share. This gentleman, his name is Benjamin Zander. Benjamin Zander is the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. So Benjamin Zander, he has an amazing TED Talk. You should watch his TED Talk as well, which is called The Transformation Power of Classical Music. He talks about how his music has really created new possibilities for himself and how things have really expanded. But he was saying about one instance in his life where he was thinking to himself, it was like an eureka moment in his mind where he thinks to himself, I am holding a stick and I'm just waving it. It's the only instrument on stage that does not make music. Every other instrument on stage is making music and mine does not. Am I really leaving an impact? His work is making sure that all the musicians on stage are making an impact. But he's asking himself, am I making an impact? And that question led him to the answer where he said, the answer to ask ourselves, are we leaving an impact in the lives of people around us, is to look into their eyes. Look into their eyes and see if it is shining. If their eyes are shining, then you, my friends, are doing work that makes a difference. So each one of us, by the work that we do, the things that we choose in our lives, we just have to make sure that we leave shining eyes around us. And if we choose that, and if we help those around us choose that, the life that we live will be so empowering, because every single step of the way, every single choice that we make is about leaving shining eyes. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. This is something I have not said it for the first time, but I am saying it for myself as well. But the one who has said this is none other than Albert Einstein. And another quote is, when you're curious, you find lots of interesting things to do. Lots of interesting things to do. And this is by Walt Disney, the one who is an epitome of creativity. You think about it. You think about what he has created out of nothingness. You think about what is possible for each one of us. If you look at every book, that is written, or every movie that has been made, or anything that has been created, even a bottle that has been created, or a mobile phone, it all came from a space of curiosity and possibility. It all came from a space of thinking that something can be created, that something can be initiated. Everything that happens in our life happens twice. First in our minds, and then outside in reality. And if in our minds, if we come and operate from a space of curiosity, if we come and operate from a space of possibilities, then my friends, we don't have to repeat the things that have already been done. There is so much more to be done. So I would like to conclude with one simple thing that you can take away. One is certainty. In my opinion, certainty is the enemy of curiosity. If you think about everything that happens in our life, if you're looking for certainty, you're killing curiosity. You're saying that this is how it should be done. This is the way it should be done. And you should do it only this way. And if this doesn't work, then we'll figure it out. No. If you come from a space of curiosity and not certainty, then for you and for those around you, you will remain a blessing. One final question that I want you all to think about as you leave today is this: does your life matter? We all have the opportunity to live a life that makes it matter for those around us. Like I said earlier, a life is not for us, but it is for those around us. Our experiences that we go through are the fuel, the pain that we go through are the fuel for us to serve others. It becomes a way for us to discover something deeper within us, to tap into something that is more powerful within us, that will allow us to discover how we can make a difference to those around us. And if that is the journey that we are living, if that is the true essence of who we are, every single day we wake up to see how can we leave shining eyes? How can we make sure that those around us are living a better quality of life because of something that we have done, something that we have said, something that we have given? If that becomes the choice that we make, and I'm sure that is a choice that you've all made. That is the reason why you're all here in this room today. That is the reason why you're all part of this group called the TASC. If that is the reason, then ask yourself, what more can I do than what I'm already doing? Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure. I do not want to exceed the time limit. It has been a wonderful pleasure being in your presence, exploring the idea of curiosity. I have had no idea what I was going to talk about until I started preparing for this. And it has opened up so many things for myself. So it's been a real privilege. And I'm truly, truly grateful to each and every one of you over here. Thank you for your presence, for staying back, for your participation. Thank you. I'm open to questions if there are time, but yes, this is me. Thank you.
One question, please. Samir?
Go ahead.
Curiosity, will it lead to becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none? And people, when job hopping happens, people look at you as in a cynical manner, so that you don't have a stability of mind. So you think you don't know how to be decisive in what you want, so that you're a job hopper. So stability comes. So these are the two-part questions that I would like you to throw light upon. Thank you.
So, what is your name once again?
Arun Sachs.
Arun Sachs, yes. Can you repeat the first part of the question?
Does curiosity leads to becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none? And
Does
then I'm just asking. So you are curious and you just bored in this, and then suddenly you jump onto next one. What is curious about it? Well, let us try in this field, and then the monotony creeps, something like that. So curiosity, that's a curiosity. I want to know, what is this? What is in this? What is in that?
So I will tell you what my answer is for myself, how I operated it. All right. And to answer to the second part of your question also, where you said, what will society think, what will people think, and how will people perceive you, is connected to the first part of the question as well.
Yes.
How I operated and how I chose and how I decided on everything that I have done in my life was based on my intention. And if we choose the right intentions, that intention will be your guide. And there is no right and wrong intention, actually. Whatever intention you choose is right for you. So what was the intention that was guiding me in making my choices was this. When I was young, when I was in college, I came across a quote that became my guiding light. It said, find a job you love to do and you will not have to work one day in your life. And I was pretty damn, I didn't want to work a day in my life. I want to have fun. I want to have every single moment. So what it is for others, Arun, I do not know. Will they become a jack of all trades? I do not know. Will they explore in curiosity? I do not know. Can you become a jack of all trades? Is it possible? When you say all, does it encompass all? What is all? All is too vast. All is too huge.
Okay.
So if it brings you joy, if it brings anyone joy, anything, let it be the guide. Your question, is it for the choices you're making or is it for the choices somebody else is making? The question, and each one of you, when you have a question, you ask yourself, why am I asking this question? And if you're curious about why am I asking this question, is it to make better choices, or is it just to find an answer, or is it to guide somebody else? There's always an intention behind every question. And if you can ask the question behind the question, and if you can try to discover the intention behind what you are thinking and asking, then that also can be your guide in terms of how you decide whatever you decide.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, can we conclude? So I request the Kalpana committee member to give a closing remarks.
Before we take the closing remarks, can I just interrupt here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like the audience to please share something that you're applying, changing, or teaching. Just share one of the things, each one of you, either in the chat or on unmuting yourself. What is it that you either apply, change, or teach from what you've just heard today? Anyone would like to share, or if no one wants to share, then we can wind up. If someone would love to share, I would love to hear. What is it that you... Yes, Madhi.
I am a curious person and I use a lot of curiosity. However, when we are listening to you today, Samir, stress the importance of having curiosity if possible, every moment in our life. It opens up to get out of routine, stagnation work. And it also, I realized that I work towards making my clients curious about their life instead of being judgmental about their life. So then their mind opens up, and so I feel affirmed about it. And I think it's very important to be mindfully curious, because curiosity is definitely something that needs to be nurtured. One question I had was, how do we nurture this in youngsters? Is it us asking questions or encouraging them to ask questions?
What do you think?
That's a question that popped up in my mind, because nurturing curiosity is something that we need to do it. Otherwise, like, I think it is more to give the space to allow that curiosity to come up instead of us telling them, be curious. Then it becomes a list that they need to do. So instead of that, if we can just receive that curiosity questions. Yes.
As a youngster, I can say it works both ways. It's not only one way as an answer to your question. You don't know what you're going to learn from the other person. The other person doesn't know what you're going to learn from this person.
Excellent. Sumati, let me just point out one thing over here. When you asked that question, the energy you had, and when I popped the question back to you, you shifted, you jumped into another shoes in that very moment. It is in that space
that
you build curiosity. It is in that holding that space where you're open to listening and you're open to sharing.
It is like, you cannot give somebody freedom. Freedom is there for everybody. If we don't get in the way, they will be on their own. We don't have to claim that we gave freedom to somebody. I think it's something similar to that, which each person is curious, allow them to be, and you don't get into the mess, get into the way. Thank you for all the nice words. I've taken down notes because I'm an avid note taker.
That makes two of us.
I love the stories. I love the stories.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? I would like to hear some feedbacks or some.
You shared very inspiring stories, and asking, first of all, I asked myself, okay, and particularly the problem, the current problem, okay, and sort of I was feeling a little stuck actually, and your session has inspired, and all the stories that you told, particularly the surfer Mo, you said, okay, he had some plans, but he had to amputate his legs, but he turned out to be a surfer. So somewhere I was thinking, okay, this session has brought a change in me. Okay, you'd inspired, and you made me challenge my problem actually. And now the curious question starts running in my mind: what am I going to do? Something new. Okay, I know I've been doing something okay, but I've always been curious on doing something else, and something else, and then I thought, okay, this is enough. Like okay, I've come to the age of 56, and let me not proceed. And I was actually thinking, okay, this is an end actually, but now you made me feel this is not my end, it is only a pause. And I'm really thankful to you, Mr. Samir, for making me feel that, because it's coming from my heart. Okay. um, yes, I and there's a lot of creativity in me, a lot of stuff in me. I don't know anything that I do. People keep telling you, how come you're doing this? You're doing this, a multitasking person. Okay. So I can work on any of those stuff, I see. I started as, um, to be frank, if I just have to sum up a little, I got married at the age after my plus two. Okay. So I never thought today I would become a teacher, then a remedial teacher, then a professor, then a counselor, and all that. I never thought about all this. Now I think, when I can do all this, why can't I do something else also different, like as you said? Okay. So you brought a change in me, okay, for which I'm greatly thankful to you. And what am I going to teach? Okay, again, this curiousness, okay, bring about this curiosity in all the people around me. Okay, thank you so much, Samir. It was wonderful, and I can keep on be telling so much about all the things that you told, and the stories when inspiring and bringing new life into me actually. And even you, I won't, like Arun was asking, it is not job hopping actually. I feel you have the talent to move on to something else, something else. So there is that potential in you, and that is what makes you move to the next level. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm taking more time.
Okay. Anybody else? Can we come to the
go ahead.
concluding remarks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I just want
So
to say that the remark about how strengths are what that leads you on to feeling fulfilled using your strengths, and weakness is actually your something that stops you from using your strength was a statement that opened up a lot of possibilities, I feel. Thank you.
yes, we are coming to the final session of the day. Wow, what a session, Sameer. You know, you just created the curiosity, and all your the stories, and you kept us throughout. What is going to come next? What next? What next? So you were maintaining the curiosity. First, claps for that. Okay. And when I was asked to give the concluding remarks, as you did in the awesome workers, I didn't plan about anything what I'm going to talk now. Okay. It is just coming spontaneously from my heart, whatever I heard from you. And it was so nice, very all the stories were inspiring, and not a story resembled the other. So each one was different, and as you rightly said, no, what is going to open up? So different things are opening up from different stories. That was really very inspiring. And as the Toastmasters International Toastmasters President told, that was a powerful message. Not about you, it is about others. And I think it's not only open for you, it is also opening for us. I'm sure our friends also will resonate with me. And definitely, we assure you that from the TAC side, because I know about my friends, definitely we will leave the shining eyes around us. It is not only about us, it's also around us, people around us. And thank you so much, Sami, because I can keep on talking, but we are coming to the end. I wanted to keep it short and crisp. Thank you so much for your time. And you really worked a lot with lots of stories, because all of us love to hear stories. Of course, we like to say stories also, but never ending. You created that curiosity, and a lot of possibilities for us. And thank you so much on behalf of a TA Study Circle. I extend my sincere gratitude for your time and energy, and for your knowledge sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's time to say goodbye, good night. Take care.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Surya, we didn't take a group snap, Surya.
I've been taking, don't worry. Maybe, yeah, if all of you can stay back for a second with your videos on, I can take one more.
What's up?
Sheila, Boneshwari,
Major,
Major,
Satish,
okay.
Sheila.
I'd like to also thank Major Narayan for putting me in touch with your group. Really thankful, Major, for that.
Yes, I'd like to thank him as well, because when we were looking for speakers, it was very nice of him to have us connected, and the show has been the way it is because it started the discussion with Major. So thanks to him, and thanks to you as well for curating this session for us the way it had. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. And thanks especially to Sameer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amir.
Thank you, Major.
Bye.
Really, thank you.
Thanks, Sami. Thanks, Major. Thanks, TA Study Circle. Thank you. Good night.